What if I told you that the person chosen to announce the greatest miracle in history wasn't an apostle, but a woman forgotten by many? On humanity's quietest morning, when hope seemed buried, a single voice was chosen to announce that Jesus was alive. It wasn't Peter, it wasn't John, it was Mary Magdalene. But why? What was it about this woman that made her the first witness to the resurrection? And why has her story been so misunderstood throughout the centuries? Before we continue, write in the comments, did you already know the true story of Mary Magdalene? I'd love to know where you're watching from and what surprises you most about this story. And if you want to understand the Bible in a deep, clear, and exciting way, subscribe to the channel now, because stories like this can completely change the way you see faith. Now come with me, because the story that begins in the silence of a tomb will transform everything you think about Mary Magdalene. The world has never known such a heavy silence. 3 days had passed since Jesus' body was placed in that borrowed tomb. 3 days since darkness covered the land and the veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom. Jerusalem still breathed fear. The streets that days before had shouted, "Crucify him," now whispered with guilt and confusion. The disciples were hiding, locked behind closed doors. Peter wept over his denial. John carried the weight of having seen everything to the end. Judas was no longer among the living. The movement that began with so much hope seemed to have died on that cross. But while the men hid in the shadows, something was about to happen, something no one expected, something that would change not only that moment, but all of eternity. The dawn of the third day was approaching, and with it, an unlikely witness walked toward the tomb. Someone who, according to human logic, had no reason to be there. Someone whose testimony would not be accepted in any court of that time. But God never followed human logic, did he? It was still dark when she left. Mary Magdalene walked through the empty streets of Jerusalem, carrying spices and perfumes. Her feet knew the way. Her heart carried a weight that words could not describe. She was going to anoint a dead body. She was going to say goodbye to the man who had completely transformed her life. The cold morning air cut through her skin, but nothing hurt more than the memory of that Friday. She had been there, at the foot of the cross. While others fled, she remained. She saw every drop of blood. She heard every cry of pain. She witnessed the moment he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Now, as she walked toward the tomb, the tears began to fall again. They were not ordinary tears. They were the tears of someone who had lost everything, of someone whose life had been restored only to see their restorer crucified as a criminal. But who was this woman? Why was she there when almost all of Jesus' disciples had disappeared? What bound her to that man even after death? The answer lies in who she was before she met him. And this story will surprise you. Mary Magdalene was not born with that name on the lists of famous sinners. Contrary to what many believe, the Bible never called her a prostitute. I never said she was the adulterous woman about to be stoned. These confusions stem from centuries of misinterpretation and mixing of different characters. The Gospel of Luke gives us the true story of Mary Magdalene. She was a woman from whom Jesus cast out 7 demons. 7. It wasn't ordinary possession. It was profound torment. It was living in unbearable darkness. It was experiencing hell while still alive. Imagine the despair, the loneliness, the social rejection. In that culture, demons were synonymous with shame, curse, impurity. Mary was not just sick, she was considered abandoned by God. But then Jesus appeared, and with a word, he not only cast out the demons, he restored her dignity, identity, purpose. He looked at that woman whom everyone avoided and saw value. He saw potential. He saw someone worthy of redemption. From that day on, Mary Magdalene became a faithful follower of Jesus. Luke 8:2-3 recounts that she, along with other healed and liberated women, supported Jesus' ministry with their own resources. She was not only transformed, she decided to dedicate her entire life to serving the one who gave her back her life. And this is where the story begins to make sense. Because loyalty doesn't spring from nothing. It springs from the gratitude of those who have been rescued from the abyss. There is a type of loyalty that only those who have been set free understand. Mary Magdalene didn't follow Jesus because of family tradition. He wasn't there for religious status or theological curiosity. She followed because she had known darkness, and Jesus brought her into the light. She followed because she was dead inside, and he made her live again. This difference is fundamental. Many of Jesus' disciples expected a political kingdom. They expected power, position, recognition. But Mary, she only expected to be close to the one who freed her. She had no hidden agenda. She had no ulterior motives. That is why, while others debated who would be the greatest in the kingdom, Mary simply served. While Judas plotted betrayal and Peter promised loyalty he could not keep, Mary remained in faithful silence. Jesus knew this. He saw the difference between those who followed him out of self-interest and those who followed him out of genuine love. And since we're talking about stories that transform lives, if you're enjoying this content, leave a like now and subscribe to the channel. Because there are still many more powerful biblical truths waiting for you. The relationship between Mary Magdalene and Jesus was that of master and disciple, but also of liberator and liberated. And this connection explains why in the darkest moment of history, when everyone fled, she could not abandon him, even if it cost him his own life. While the men ran for their lives, the women stayed behind. This is one of the most striking truths in the Gospels. At the crucifixion, when fear gripped the hearts of the closest disciples, who was at the foot of the cross? Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Salome, Joanna. Women, they risked everything. In that culture, being publicly associated with a crucified person was dangerous. It could mean imprisonment, torture, death. The Romans had no mercy on sympathizers of rebels, but these women couldn't stay away. Love was stronger than fear. This doesn't diminish the male disciples. Peter, John, and the others were human, flawed, and frightened, just as any of us would be. But the contrast is intentional in the Gospels. God was showing something. He uses those who remain faithful, not those who appear strong. In first-century Jewish culture, a woman's testimony had no legal value. If you wanted to validate something in court, you needed men. Women were considered unreliable witnesses. So why would God choose women specifically to be the first witnesses of the resurrection? Why not wait for Peter to return? Why not appear first to the male disciples who would have more credibility? The answer will shake your understanding of how God works. But first, you need to feel what Mary felt that morning. The stone was out of place. Mary Magdalene stopped. Her heart raced. That stone was enormous. It weighed tons. It had been sealed and guarded by Roman soldiers. No one could move it, no one would dare try. But there it was, rolled up, open, as if something impossible had happened. Mary ran. He looked inside the tomb, empty. The linen cloths were there, folded, but the body was not. Jesus' body had disappeared. Panic gripped her. Someone had stolen the body. Someone had desecrated the tomb. The last thing she had left, the ability to give Jesus a proper burial, had been taken from her. John 22 records her desperate words as she ran to Peter and John. "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." She didn't think about resurrection. Nobody did. Even after Jesus had spoken about it several times, the idea seemed too impossible. The dead don't come back. Crucified bodies don't resurrect. Human logic didn't allow for hope. Peter and John ran to the tomb. They confirmed it. Empty. The linen cloths were there. The body was gone. They returned home confused, without understanding. But Maria stayed, alone, crying outside the empty tomb. And that's when everything changed, because sometimes God waits for the crowd to leave before revealing himself to those who remain. Maria was standing with her back to the tomb, weeping. When she turned around, she saw a man standing there. Through his tears, she guessed it was the gardener. It made sense. Who else would be in a cemetery at that hour? The man asked, "Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for?" Between sobs, Mary replied, "Sir, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will take him away." She was willing to carry Jesus' dead body alone. Her love knew no bounds. Then came the most intimate and powerful moment recorded in the Gospels. The man said only one word, "Maria." And at that moment, she recognized the voice. It wasn't the gardener. It was him, Jesus, alive, resurrected, standing before her. "Rabboni," she cried, "Master." John 20:16 records this moment with a simplicity that belies an oceanic depth. Jesus didn't need to give a speech. He didn't need dramatic signs. He simply said her name, and that was enough. Because Jesus knows each one of his own by name. He doesn't see us as a crowd. He sees us individually, personally, intimately. Mary tried to hold on to Jesus. She wanted to embrace him, to be sure that he was real, that he wouldn't disappear again. But Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father." And then came the mission that would change everything. "Go and tell my brothers that I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Jesus entrusted Mary Magdalene with the most important message in human history. He didn't wait for the disciples to arrive. He didn't send angels to make the official announcement. He chose a woman whose testimony would be questioned, doubted, possibly ignored by the culture of the time. And Mary obeyed. John 20:18 records, "Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, 'I have seen the Lord,' and she told them what he had said to her." She became the apostle to the apostles, the first evangelist, the first preacher of the resurrection. A woman whom society considered an invalid witness became the primary witness to the most crucial event in the Christian faith. And do you know what the disciples' initial reaction was? Luke 24:11 recounts, "These words seemed to them like nonsense, and they did not believe them. They doubted. They needed to see with their own eyes to believe. But Mary, she believed when she heard her name. She believed and obeyed immediately." This brings us to the central question. Why did Jesus choose Mary Magdalene to be the first to announce the resurrection? The answer goes far beyond chance. And when you understand it, you'll realize how God operates in a radically different way from human systems. God chose Mary Magdalene for three powerful reasons. First, she remained faithful when others fled. Faithfulness is not measured in words, but in presence. Mary was at the cross when it was dangerous. She was at the tomb when it seemed useless. She was weeping when others had already given up. God honors those who do not abandon their post. Second, she was freed from darkness and never forgot it. People who have experienced profound redemption don't follow God out of convenience. They follow him because they know who they were before and who they have become afterward. Gratitude breeds unwavering faithfulness. Third, God wanted to make a statement to the world. In a culture that despised female testimony, he chose a woman to announce the resurrection. This was no accident. It was revolutionary. Jesus was showing that in the kingdom of God, the last are first, the despised are chosen, the invisible are seen. A person's worth is not determined by social status, gender, or cultural acceptance. It is determined by faithfulness and love. Mary Magdalene's role in early Christianity was essential, but over the centuries her story has been distorted. She has been confused with other women, called a sexual sinner without biblical basis, and her importance minimized. But the Bible doesn't lie. The Gospels make it clear. Mary Magdalene was chosen. She was commissioned. She was the first eyewitness to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And this choice continues to resonate, because every time someone who has been rejected by the world is used by God in a powerful way, we are seeing the same truth. God doesn't choose based on human resumes. He chooses based on a surrendered heart. Ultimately, the story of Mary Magdalene is not just about her, It's about all of us who have ever felt unqualified, all of us who carry a heavy past, all of us who thought that God couldn't use someone like us. Mary was freed from 7 demons and became the first witness of the resurrection. Paul persecuted the church and became the greatest missionary. Peter denied Jesus 3 times and became the rock upon which the church was built. God is not looking for perfect people. He is looking for people who are available, people who, like Mary, do not give up even when all seems lost. The morning of the resurrection began with a woman weeping before an empty tomb. It ended with that same woman running to announce, "I have seen the Lord. He is alive." That announcement changed the world. Billions of people today believe in Jesus because someone was faithful enough to be there at the right time, because someone stayed when others fled, because someone loved more than feared. Mary Magdalene teaches us that God sees what the world ignores, that He chooses whom the world discards, that silent faithfulness is more valuable than noisy promises. And if you feel today that your past disqualifies you, that your history is too heavy, that you are not fit to be used by God, remember Mary. Remember that the first voice chosen to announce the resurrection was that of someone who knew darkness and was rescued by the light. Because that's the essence of the gospel. It doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you're going. And if you choose to remain faithful, God can use your voice to proclaim miracles. The story of Mary Magdalene proves that God writes straight with crooked lines. She went from being possessed by demons to being the first witness of the resurrection, from being marginalized by society to becoming the apostle to the apostles, from being a voiceless woman to being the bearer of humanity's most important message. And today, that same truth applies to you. It doesn't matter what you've faced. It doesn't matter how many demons you've carried. It doesn't matter how many times you've been ignored, rejected, or discarded. If you remain faithful, if you choose to be present even when it's difficult, God can use your life in ways you can't even imagine. So I want to know from you, what struck you most about this story? Write in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here you'll find biblical truths that transform lives. And don't forget to leave a like so that more people can learn the true story of Mary Magdalene. May Mary's faithfulness inspire you. May God's choice of her remind you that He also chooses you. And may the message she proclaimed continue to resonate throughout your life. Jesus is alive, and He knows you by name. Until the next video. And remember, female biblical characters like Mary Magdalene show us that God never wastes a story of redemption. May God be with you.